Okay, the goal for 5.8 is to be able to say, okay, these two lines are parallel, so I can use the slope from this line to write the equation of another, or if they're perpendicular, be able to figure out what the slope should be for the other line. Okay, so first of all, parallel lines. What does it mean if two lines are parallel? They never touch. So two lines that never intersect. So, oh, sorry. There we go. That never intersect. Does anybody know why they never intersect?
Because they're both going one way.
Okay, they're both going one way. Yes, but there's like a math way to say that. Think about the slopes. Well, if they never intersect, they have to be the same, right? Okay, so because they have the same slope. Okay, so we're gonna highlight parallel lines in pink. And then if you grab your green, you're gonna highlight have the same slope. Okay, so if I have one line, y equals 3x plus 2, and I want to write a parallel line, then that slope also has to be 3x. Okay. Okay, so that's parallel lines. We all got that down? All right, so now we got to talk about perpendicular. Okay, talk to me about perpendicular lines, people. What do we know? They cross, okay. Two lines that intersect. What kind of an angle do they intersect at?
90 degrees.
Yeah, 90 degrees, right angle. Right angles. Because, does anybody know why they intersect at 90 degrees?
Opposite.
Yes, okay, their slopes are opposite reciprocal. Good. Okay, so what does it mean if the slopes are opposite? What's like opposite numbers, guys? What's it mean if you have opposite numbers?
Negative.
One's negative, one's positive. And what's it mean if it's a reciprocal? What's reciprocal mean, guys? Think about a fraction. What's the reciprocal? You flip it, right? Reciprocal. Okay, so opposite reciprocal means you change it. If it's positive, you change it to negative, and then you flip it up over. Okay. So slopes are always opposite reciprocals in perpendicular lines. So, has everybody got enough time to write? I'll give you a second.
I go get it.
Yep. All right. We're gonna answer these questions. We're gonna look at the slope of two different lines and decide if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So if they're parallel, how will you know? We're not gonna have the picture though. We're just gonna have the equation. They'll have the same slope. What about if they're perpendicular? They'll have different slopes, and if it's neither, they won't be related at all. Okay, I'm gonna give you two at a time. Okay, so on number 1, 2, you gotta decide, are these two lines parallel or perpendicular or neither? Yep. If they're opposite reciprocal, they're perpendicular. And if it's just two random numbers that aren't related, it's neither. So you just gotta pick parallel, perpendicular, or neither. On the first one, 3/12 and 1/4. Are those parallel? How come?
3/12 is reduced to 1.
3/12 reduces to 1/4, so these are the same, so that means they're parallel. How about on number 2? Perpendicular. Okay, normally, if you have like -3 and +3, they're not perpendicular, right? But 1 is different because 1/1 is always going to be 1, right? So -1 and +1 are perpendicular.
So then what would be perpendicular?
So like if you had 3, it would be -1/3. Because this is like 1/1 and this is -1/1, right? So if you flip them, it's always going to be 1 and -1. So you don't have to put 1/1 like you do with 1/3.
So it raised to like 5 and then 5/1 or
1/5, yeah. All right, let's try another set. Yep. Okay, parallel, perpendicular, or neither for those next two questions. Pick your answer. Parallel, perpendicular, or neither. All right, number 3, what are we thinking?
Neither.
Why neither?
Because it's not 1.
It's not a reciprocal, right? They just made it opposite. Okay, so this one would be neither. How about number 4? Perpendicular. Notice this is 2/1, right? Positive 2/1. To make it opposite, we made it negative, and then the reciprocal is 1/2. Okay, so this would be perpendicular. Okay, let's get into actually writing these lines. I've got 4 examples here. We'll see how many we're getting through, but follow along. It's going to take a little bit of writing. Okay, so we're going to write the equation of a line. And it's going to be parallel to y equals 3x plus 5. And passing through 0, -3. Okay. So we're gonna write this in, we're gonna write a separate line that's parallel to the line that they gave us, okay? So that point is, what's special about that point? The point, think about what we talked about last week, is 0, -3 is a y-intercept, right? It's where the graph is gonna cross the vertical axis. So we have the slope, we have the y-intercept, so we can write this in slope-intercept form. Does anybody remember what slope-intercept form is? That's point slope. Slope-intercept form. Flip back in your notebook, find it for me. 5.5, I believe. Maybe 5.6. 5.6. 5.6. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. Okay. M is the what? Slope. And in a parallel line, what do we know about the slopes? They're the same. So what's the slope from the line we have? Looking at the line is y equals 3x plus 5. The line is y equals 3x plus 5, right? What's the slope of that line? Slope is always next to x, guys. 3, okay? So y equals 3x. We took the slope from the other line. What's our y-intercept? I just told you the point's the y-intercept, right? So it's -3. So we took the 3x from here and the -3 from there and made our new equation for our parallel line. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this line is perpendicular. To the line y equals -1/5 x minus 2. So what's the slope of that line right there? -1/5. Okay, and our point is going to pass through, or our line is going to pass through the point 0, 6. So again, we have the slope from the other line and 0, 6. Anytime it starts with 0, it's a y-intercept, right? So again, we can write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. Okay. Give me a second to write all this down. I know I wrote it kind of fast. What do we know about the slope of perpendicular lines? It's the opposite reciprocal. So what's the slope in the line that they gave us? Negative 1/5 right here, right? Okay, so what's the opposite reciprocal of negative 1/5? Positive 5 or 5/1, right? So y equals 5x. Okay, what's my y-intercept? It's always this number from the 0 whatever, right? So plus 6. Does everybody see how this is working?
Yeah.
Okay. These two we're gonna write in point slope form. So while I'm writing this on the board, somebody look up point slope form. You're right.
Y minus y1 equals n. And x minus x1.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna use that equation that Ava just said. I'll write it down in a second. To write the equation of the line up here. Okay, so we're gonna write an equation for a line in point slope form, which Ava just told us what it was, using the slope from this line and the point that they gave us. Okay, so point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so all you do is plug in x1 and y1 from the point and your slope. What do we know about the slope of parallel lines? It's the same, right? They're equal. So if the slope of this line is 1/2, what's the slope of my new line? Ooh, 1/2, right? They're exactly the same because it's parallel. If it's perpendicular, then we'd have to make a negative. This one's parallel. Okay, so what is y1, guys? What's the y value? -7. So if I have minus -7, that's actually plus 7, right? Equals, what's my slope? 1/2 times x minus, what's the x value? 5. Right, so all this is doing is taking everything you learned last week and doing it with parallel lines. Okay, nothing too complicated. Well, parallel or perpendicular lines, depending on the problem, but same ideas. Just have to find the slope from a different equation now. Okay, one more. Okay, this one's perpendicular. We're still using point slope form. Perpendicular to y equals 3x minus 5. Passing through. -2, -3. All right, give me a second to write this down. Okay, again, we're using point slope form. So the same equation that we used in the last problem. 3x minus 5. At the end, it's -3. Okay, so what do we know about the slope of perpendicular lines? So reciprocal, and they have to make it opposite. So what's the slope of the line they gave us? Three. Slope is always next to x, so it'd be negative. You gotta flip it over. Negative, this is 3/1, so it'd be -1/3. Gotta flip the fraction. So the slope that we're gonna use is -1/3. Okay, stay with me here. We're almost done. Okay, so y minus, what's our y value here?
3, -3.
-3, so it's actually y plus 3, right? Because minus a negative. Equals, what's my slope? -1/3 times x. What's my x value? Minus -2 turns to +2. Okay, questions on how we're figuring this out?
Nada.
Does this make sense? The main idea today is to be able to pick a parallel line and a perpendicular line. And if you're given one, to write the other. I'm gonna save the homework assignment for tomorrow because I want you to work on your IXLs from last week.